So if you're averaging like a 160 and you go in for the July test and you get a 157 and you're planning on taking other tests and you think you can do better, do you think it's worthwhile to cancel your 157 since you have a couple more chances and you think you might be able to do better?
July in particular would be the only case where you actually knew you had the 157. And so if your average was a 160, you got 157, you think you could do better, I'd say still keep it, because a 160 practice test average may not necessarily be a 160 test day performance, because there's test day anxiety and stress, which are real. There's the nerves of having it be the real thing. So even if you got a 160 on your own at home, or even in a proctored setting when it's not the real thing, that may not necessarily translate to test day. And so I do think there's a certain security in having the 157 on record. The exception to that would be if you knew that under no circumstances would you ever want to apply to law school with a 157 and nothing else higher beyond that. So let's say you want a tier 1, you want a top 14, and let's say your GPA isn't that high. You obviously need a higher LSAT score. And so in that case, maybe you want to cancel it, but also consider that a cancellation for law schools is like a big question mark. For all they know, that was a 140, right? So 157 isn't nearly as bad in comparison. And a 157 actually is maybe not what you want it to be, but it is higher than the median. The median LSAT score is a 151. So I'd say, you can hear I'm in New York City with all the sirens, right? So a 157 is actually not bad. So I'd say maybe you do want to keep it on your record.
So they see that you canceled it if you do cancel?
That's the thing, yeah. So if you take the LSAT, you either will end up at the end with a score on record or cancellation. If you want to avoid that, let's say you're taking in June or July and the week before or the day before something awful happens, or you find that your practice test scores were never close to what you wanted it to be. You could withdraw from that test, meaning you don't show up, you don't go in, you don't take the test, and law schools will never even know that you were registered. So that's a great option, I think, if you feel like you're just not going to be where you want to be on test day itself. I would go for that. The downside of a withdrawal is that they keep your money. They keep your money for that LSAT test day administration. An alternative is about 3 weeks before the test, there is a postponement deadline. So let's say 1 month out or 3.5 weeks before, you decide that you're not going to be ready, you can withdraw and they'll only, you can postpone, and they'll only keep some of your money. They'll give some back that you could then apply to a future test date.